Trickle-down economics is totally discredited. In reality, it has failed.
I challenge anybody to find it.
Voodoo economics. That's how candidate George Bush described candidate Ronald Reagan's policy during the 1980 presidential primaries.
Back to trickle-down economics, it didn't trickle.
When you go to Reaganomics and you try to release money to the rich in the hope that it'll trickle down to the others, we have proven time and time again, this is nonsense. It doesn't trickle down anywhere. The man with $1 million income who makes another $100,000 is more likely than not to spend it. And he generally invests it in a secondary investment, not a primary investment. He will create no jobs with it. He will create no consumption with it normally.
Well, what I said back then, it's very hard to find actually, let me start over. One, I didn't say it. Nobody, every network's looked for it and none can find it. It was never said.
Voodoo economic policy.
What was that again?
Voodoo economic policy.
Trickle-down economics, it didn't trickle.
It just isn't going to work.
In this day and age, you simply can't go back and correct the record. Somebody's bound to have the tapes.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Last night in Houston, they said the vice president was only kidding.
In terms of the political process, you ask yourselves, what are the most important issues facing our country? Why is it, simple question, with all of the growth in technology, with all of the wonderful globalization and free trade, all of that stuff, all of the increases in education, why does the average American today work longer hours for low wages than was the case 25 years ago? Simple question. Do you think it's seen on television very often? What about the morality of 1% of the population owning more wealth than the bottom 95%? Seen that?
In a New York Times editorial, Princeton economist Paul Krugman addressed one of these little-mentioned issues. According to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, between 1979 and 1997, income for families in the middle rose 9%. Income for families in the top 1% rose 140%. Krugman noted, quote, "I know from experience that even mentioning income distribution leads to angry accusations of class warfare." He then asks, why has the response to rising inequality been a drive to reduce taxes on the rich? Good question.
Trickle-down economic theory, which says that to create jobs, we need to give tax breaks to the rich and large corporations. We need more deregulation, just the way we deregulated Wall Street. That makes no sense at all if you're talking about the needs of the middle class and working families.
And he's talking about taxing rich people at the top who currently pay 15% in tax. The incredible set of preferences that the people at the top rely on effectively gives them about a 15% in general, 15% level of taxation. Whereas a man earning or woman earning $100,000 a year is probably paying between state, city, and federal something closer to 35 or 40%. It's kind of silly that people who earn millions a year, or many millions a year, in a couple of cases I can think of $1 billion or more a year, are paying 15% in taxes. Oil companies never pay any taxes, and they have something called depletion. Oil companies, Exxon is really a country. Don't even think of it as a company. Wow. It's a country, and it behaves like a country, a power-hungry country. And I can't blame my friends Charles and David Koch for wanting to preserve that. You know, why not? They're in the oil business. Give me the depletion. Sorry, David.
General Electric has made it a very proud part of their policies that they are going to move jobs from the United States of America to China, to Mexico, any place in the world where they can get cheap labor. This suggests, obviously, that General Electric is deeply concerned about our trade policies. Over the years, General Electric has done its best not to pay taxes, or to pay as little as they can in taxes, taking advantage of all kinds of corporate welfare tax loopholes. Suggests very strongly that General Electric has an interest in tax policy. General Electric is a major polluter. Therefore, they're concerned about weakening environmental policies. It's not obviously just General Electric. It's the same thing with CBS or ABC. the conflicts of interest are enormous, and the result is that certain issues are talked about, certain issues are not talked about.
But all of the issues that Bernie talks about will lead us back to a productive economy for the middle classes down to the poor.
We hear a whole lot of discussion about the so-called job creators. That's what the Republicans talk about. Well, you know who the job creators are? The job creators are the middle class and working class of this country who every day go out and they buy products and they buy services.
The man who earns $30,000 a year, or right now nothing, and has some money added to that, will spend the money added to that because he needs to spend the money added to that.
And the reality is that if working families do not have disposable income to go out and purchase, then companies can't create jobs. You could have the smartest CEO in the world, but that CEO can't sell a product if people do not have the money to buy that product. 70% of our economy is based on consumer consumption.
The repeal of the estate tax, half of the benefits of that repeal will go to the richest 1/10 of 1% of the population. All of the benefits will go to the wealthiest 2% of the families in America. You got that? 98% of the families do not pay one nickel in estate tax. I walked down the street a couple of months ago. Guy goes up and he says, "Bernie, I'm really angry at you." You know, why are you angry? "I've got $20,000 in the bank and I want to leave my money to my kids, and why are you stopping me from doing that?" $20,000. This guy's not going to pay one penny in estate tax. People don't know that. So what they do is they poll. They got very good pollsters, and you play off the general ignorance of the population. People don't know much. Death tax sounds pretty good. Everybody who dies, you got to pay a huge tax to the federal government. Not true.
We put the death tax on the road to extinction. The death tax is a bad tax.
Trickle down economics, it didn't trickle.
Voodoo economic policy.
Deal from strength or get crushed every time. Over here, USA. Over there, USA. Freedom and liberty everywhere. Oh, say can you see it's not so easy.
And I think that you should watch very carefully for the possibilities of social unrest in this country unless Washington wakes up.
But we have to stand up tall and answer freedom's call. USA, 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 USA. We're the land of the free and the home of the brave. USA, USA. The stars and stripes are flying. Let's celebrate our freedom. Inspire proudly freedom to the world. Ameritude, USA. American pride, USA. It's attitude, it's who we are. Stand up tall. We're the red, white, and blue. Fiercely free, that's who. Our colors don't run, no siree. Over here, USA. Over there, USA. Freedom and liberty everywhere. USA. Oh, say can you see it's not so easy, but we have to stand up tall and answer freedom's call.
It's getting to the nature of these ethical and moral traditions that are embedded in the framework of human cultures. And when I reflect on the current state of affairs of humankind, it's a quantum change that occurs all or none. And this now is a model system for investigating how the human organism is capable of this radical change in perception and behavior.
President Donald Trump knows how to make America great.
If you had to pick, which one do you think would be better for the economy, Trump or Hillary?
You know, it's so hard because I mean, I would think that if Donald did what he says, the good things he says he's going to do, but Donald is crazy. And Donald is tasteless. And he doesn't have a clue. And he's going to have the wrong people around him. So it's very, very, very hard to say.